There are just a couple more adjustment layers I'd like to go over. The first one is photo filter. So with photo filter, there are just a ton of presets. These are mostly the kind of filters that you would add on to a camera when you're shooting. That's obviously not necessary if you're not shooting film and working with digital. So in this case, these are just the presets of any of these filters you would be using for film-based photography. So for instance, an 81 filter would give you this result, right? If you were adding a warming filter to your color photography. So there's a bunch of presets right here. In addition to that, what you'll find the most useful is just to look it up by color. Say you wanted to add a particular like a color enhancement to your image, either sort of a cool or particular kind of a color cast. You can just pick one here, and then it basically adds various amounts of density. I mean, this can be especially useful if you wanted to add like a sepia tone to your photograph or do some sort of, color enhancement. Not totally necessary, but you can kind of see how that works. The most useful of these is the black and white settings. So for black and white, it defaults to a black and white setting just according to its own preset, just the default one you have right here. But you also have the ability of either doing adjustments directly on your photograph with, again, the hand tool. So if we want to just affect the detail in the blues, we would click here. If we want to, affect, other tones, in this case, the warm tones in the photograph, or the greens, or, the yellow in the grasses or something, you can click on those particular parts of the photograph and impact those color channels separately. So again, that's one kind of nice way you can make discrete adjustments. One thing I would caution you though, especially when we're talking about blue skies, if you go really far in doing an enhancement with the blue sky, what you'll start to notice is there's a little bit of color banding that begins to happen, little vignetting around objects, where especially on highlight areas, especially if you have any color fringing with that lens, you're going to notice that kind of popping out more dramatically when you do, very dramatic enhancements to those parts of the image. So just look at the edges, especially high contrast areas of that, and make sure you're not pushing it too far. But otherwise, it's a pretty useful tool that you can use for color enhancement. And now what I like about this is with especially raw files, there's a lot of color information in the file, more than you're working with a JPEG image. So with this particular, raw file, which has been converted to DNG file, each of the color channels is coming in separately, which means you can adjust them separately. So any adjustments you want to make to the image overall, you still have the, an absolute ability to do that. So it's a nice way of, really controlling how your black and white photographs look after processing. So again, in addition to any of the other controls that we've covered, you would still be doing, adjustments with levels or curves, and then you would additionally come in with black and white, and after conversion, make whatever, enhancement or adjustment you want. So if you do that directly through for instance, you're doing a levels adjustment, you still have the option of desaturating it here, but it's not going to give you the same information. Same thing you could do with hue and saturation and just desaturate it, right? That's not going to give you the same amount of control. So again, you can reduce saturation all the way down and you would have a black and white photograph, but ultimately that's not going to be what you want. What you're going to want there, right? Instead, let's just kind of go through these, remove them back to the black and white filter. With the black and white filter, you just have an incredible amount more control over any of the adjustments that you're making, which, in general is the way you're going to want to do black and white conversion, whether you're doing it in Adobe Camera Raw or whether you're doing it in Photoshop.